That's what should I write to me?
Everyone.
How are you?
Good. Hey, Susie and Brad, Kathy.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, my volume now.
And I am I am recording this so we can post it on our YouTube channel later on.
Cool.
So I don't think we'll have a lot of folks joining us tonight.
It's the quality that counts.
Well, it's a
Hey,
good
Kathy
story.
Spencer.
Pardon?
I saw Kathy. I didn't know which Kathy it was until I saw your face.
Oh, yeah, it's different computer. And it's just me tonight.
Can you guys hear my fan in the background, or should I turn it off?
Oh, you have more than one fan, Alex, but I can't hear him.
I don't hear it.
Okay.
Brad,
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
you able to survive the heat okay over there near Wenatchee? Kathy must have been sizzling hot.
Oh, it still is.
Yeah?
Yeah. At first they said it would cool down Thursday, and now they're saying Sunday evening.
Man.
I was for a second. I'm not
Okay.
And Dave, you're not going to the Met Tower this weekend, correct?
Well, I'm still on the fence. I may have an opportunity to carpool over with somebody.
Okay.
I haven't talked to them yet, actually. The thing is yeah, part of it's the heat, part of it is just a quick turnaround once I get back.
Right. Yeah, I'm probably gonna leave late Friday night and come back Saturday night. I just don't want to be gone from Garrett that long. So.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if other folks are going to join us, but since I am recording, I will just get started on this presentation. So thank you all for joining me. I'm Alexander Jones. I am the Director of Communications, or I guess more or less the Director of the Canoes episodes. So if you see any of the Canoes coming out, those are under my purview. And so that's not related to this. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the John Day River and a little adventure that we had on the John Day River. So if you have questions, I don't know how many of you folks have been on the John Day River. But if you have questions or comments, please interrupt me as I go through the story. And I'm more than happy to answer any of those. So I'm going to share my screen here. And hold on just a second while I disable the screen share. Why? Let's see. Hey, Ollie, are you on this right now? Oh, hey, Dave. I think you are the host right now, and you have to allow me to be the host. Thank you. Okay. So this, like I said, this presentation is regarding the John Day River, and it's called An Unexpected Paddler on the John Day. The John Day River is also known as Mah-Hah. The original Native Americans named the river Mah-Hah. And the current name of the John Day River actually stems from one of the settlers that was in the area, who was a trapper and was caught by the indigenous folks in the area, and was stripped of all of their clothing and then set free. And so this story, one of the trappers was named John Day, and now that is the name of the river. But I did want to recognize the indigenous name of Mah-Hah, and recognize the indigenous tribes that occupy that land. The John Day is the longest undammed river in Oregon and one of the longest undammed rivers in North America. It's a fantastic stretch of river, really close to the Seattle area. And there's actually 4 sections that you can typically paddle. And we chose to paddle the section 3, which was from Clarno to Cottonwood. It's roughly 70 miles. It took us, we did a 5-day trip with 4 nights. And on our trip, we had 2 rafts and 1 cataract. And we put on, it was around 2,000 CFS in May. Typically, it can be paddled in a spring runoff. Because it's undammed, you try to get the river when it's flowing. But for our purposes as the Paddle Trails Canoe Club, you can actually paddle it throughout the summer at low flow as well. So they typically recommend not flows less than 1,000 CFS. And when I checked today, it's at 253 CFS. So if anyone's paddled it lower than 1,000, please chime in. I would say that it's extremely low at that point. But as I go through my presentation, you'll see what it looks like at 2,000 CFS. I just included an image here for those of that are not familiar, excuse me, with where the John Day is. It is on the Columbia River Gorge, very close to some of the other significant rivers in the area, near the Deschutes and other rivers that are pretty well known. But the John Day is fantastic. It's just recently been added to a lottery system, so it's a little bit difficult during the flowing season to get a permit nowadays for Section 3. So if you can, go through the lottery system at rec.gov and be one of the lucky winners, you'll be able to float this section of river. So for our trip, we, again, this is a map here showing a little bit more in detail the section we actually paddled. One of the really fascinating reasons to paddle this is just the immensity of the gorge that you paddle through. Massive basalt cliffs line the river, and there's really a ton of frequent bends in the river that are really interesting, and some great side hikes as well. I'd say the one detractor of this John Day River is that the lower section, as you get to the Cottonwood takeout, the campsites become very infrequent, and the demeanor and the barrenness of the river becomes very apparent. And so we were struggling for campsites, and the 4th night campsite was just on a little gravel bar that we were able to locate. And I've indicated the campsites that we took on the river with the red triangles there. And as I go through the presentation, you'll see at what river mile that we actually did camp at. There's two significant rapids on the John Day River, but for the most part, the river is very calm, mostly flat water, so it makes it really prime for canoers or first time to really early multi-day paddlers. So great trip for families. I highly recommend it. But the two rapids, Clarno Rapids, is class 3-4. I'd say it's more on the 3 side. Just a really big wave and a hole in the center. And then the only other big rapid of note is the Basalt Rapid, which is class 2 to 3, and it's a fairly straightforward move through the rapid, and really no consequence there. But other than that, mostly riffles, some class 2, but again, you're paddling through a fantastic gorge, and it's highly recommended. So this is the put-in at Clarno. It's a great boat ramp. There is access for vehicles and trailers, so you can launch safely. And it's right by the John Day fossil bed, so it's a really cool location if you want to explore before putting in. But we launched and very little traffic. There's some folks coming off of Service Creek, which is just above this section. But other than that, we were pretty much alone on the river. And you can see here, my partner Garrett and her mother in a 14-foot NRS Otter paddle raft there, or sorry, oar rigged raft. And then really after the first few miles, you come up on Clarno Rapid, and this is a video here of Clarno Rapid at 2000 CFS. I did slow it down, so it is some slow-mo here, but you can see that massive hole in river center. But really what you do is take a really easy line from the Scout up above and just follow that green tongue and try to avoid all the nastiness that's in the center there. So really not too much maneuvering in this rapid, but you can make it as spicy as you want it to be. So as we went through the trip, we camped right below Clarno Rapid at River Mile 91. And one of the benefits of our multi-day trips is that we like to outcook each other. And so we always challenge each other on how incredible we can make our meals. So this is a shrimp and black rice with a sauteed spinach on top and a nice glaze that we created for the shrimp. The really interesting part of this is that we had a propane tank for our stove, and we had thought that we had filled that propane tank prior to the launch of our trip, but there is no measurement gauge on the propane tank. And so when we set up the stove to cook our fantastic meal, there is the collective heads of me and my partner's father, EB, but we could not figure out how to get this stove to operate. And so we all of a sudden were just running around trying to figure out what to do. And we started, pulling the fire pan out to try to create a fire. And we're like, okay, for the next 5 days, we're going to have to cook via fire. And we were just kind of freaking out. And it took both Garrett and her mother to calm us down and, think more critically about the situation. And we had not properly screwed the nozzle in the propane tank, and we were able to cook our meal. So I guess one of the things that I learned was that, when presented with a situation, take a moment, step back, try to critically think about what you're doing. But not all is lost. There's always other options to cook your meals, but we were very fortunate that the propane tank was filled, and we were able to go about our trip with actually cooking on the stove. So again, like I mentioned, the river is just absolutely picturesque. It's just fantastic basalt gorges all throughout the trip. There are some trees along the river, so if you're a hammock camper, there are some options. But again, below, you know, the portion of the river, it just becomes very, very barren and desert. So the camps up above, in the first 30 40 miles of the river, have trees and shaded areas to camp, but below, they become very infrequent, and there's less ideal campsites. I do want to mention too is there is currently one guidebook that I am aware of for the river, and I actually have it right here. It's a very dated guidebook, and I would assume that now that the John Day River is part of the lottery system, that there might be an update to the guidebook, and that would be very much appreciated, because a lot of the campsites that we went past or that were marked on the map were not there, either washed out or just did not seem like ideal campsites. So one thing is I would say is, if you are using the guidebook that is currently available, it is not accurate in terms of the campsites that it offers on the map. I do have denotions in my own map, so if you are interested in paddling it, I'd be more than happy to loan my map out, or share it digitally with the club members as well. Some of the geology that you see here is all part of the great basalt flood that you see also across the Columbia River Gorge. It all cuts through, the John Day River cuts through the same basalt that you would see along the Columbia River Gorge, and whether you are in the Grand Ronde or other river systems in the Pacific Northwest, it's cutting through the same basalt area there. And just a little bit of a geology background, because I went to school for geology. These basalt flows actually originated around 16 to 14 million years ago. And they are from a hot spot. So similar to the way that the Hawaiian Islands formed, was the way that the basalt floods of the Columbia River Gorge or the Columbia River Basin actually formed. So really interesting stuff. And it's one of the unique places that you can actually see so many different columnar basalts in different successions. So, and here in this photo, you'll see, at least 5 or 6 different episodes of basalt flows. So our second day, we made it to what they refer to as the Redwall. It's a fantastic campsite. There's some history there. There's an old settlers camp there, and you're actually looking directly at this massive wall of basalt. It's absolutely fantastic. The hues of red and iron in the wall are fantastic, and I highly recommend this camp. It's at River Mile 78. So, based on your strategic planning, making that a go-to campsite is fantastic. There are other campsites really close to this one that are also equally as beautiful. So you'll have to pick and choose whether you want to go for this site or not. But I highly recommend this one. And there's a couple more photos that I have that highlight the beauty of this site. This is also at that campsite. This is the settlers cabin there, a really cool spot. And I'm actually seeing some chats here. That's not an island. It's actually a bend in the river there. So it's actually, why am I not thinking about what a bend in the river is called right now? But it's a bend in the river that just has exposed basalt on the side there. And then Dave also asked, is 2000 CFS considered a high level? I'd say yes. For this, on the John Day, it would be considered a fairly high level. And I would say that Clarno Rapid was a significant challenge in terms of, it was actually a class 3. So after we broke camp from the Redwall campsite, you start to flow through some really fantastic terrain. And one of the creme de la creme areas of the river is a place called the Palisades. And you can see here this fantastic area. This whole wall just kind of opens up, and it's just absolutely amazing. And there's a really great campsite that is down at the bottom here, and then you can take a hike all the way to the top and kind of look back at the Palisades. I highly recommend. We didn't know about this. This is the first time that we were actually doing the river, and again, I didn't mention it, but that we did this river in 2018, and we had no idea what was coming around each bend. And when we saw this is like a campsite that we really thought would be fantastic to take. You're kind of just in this beautiful amphitheater. Here's another view of the Palisades, kind of more of a panorama. You can see just how drastic the vertical relief of this canyon is. Again, this is us paddling past the Palisades, so we're now downriver from the Palisades. And the sky just kind of really played with the shadowing, and it was just a fantastic trip. And I would have to say, as an aside, I had just done the Snake River this year. And I know that the Snake River is part of the Four Rivers lottery system. But I would say the John Day River, hands down, is a more picturesque, more beautiful river. It doesn't have the big whitewater hits, but if you're going for sheer beauty, the John Day River has it all. Our Camp 3 here was at River Mile 59.3. And it was another fantastic campsite, again, against a fantastic canyon wall, and really gorgeous. And you can see now, as we're getting down lower, you're starting to see a little bit more infrequent trees, more shrubbery, and less, interesting shaded areas to be around. But this story would be remiss without actually explaining what the whole story is about. That was a little bit more facts and figures. But this story is fantastic because, I was a little bit nervous to share it because we didn't know the legality of our situation when we happened upon it. But after we broke Camp 3, we were paddling down the river, and we were coming to kind of a non-consequential rapid. And as we had been paddling down the river, there were many instances where we had noticed families of Canadian geese with their newborn goslings. And, we took that as very interesting. It was very cute to see all these goslings, and we were very aware and apparent of that, and tried to maintain, our distance from those groups of families. But they were just so frequent and all over the place. So we were just kind of constantly minding where these goslings were and how we could avoid them. But we were above this, class 2 rapid in a tight group. And right as we began to enter the rapid, this mother goose and her 6 goslings crossed right in front of us at the top of the rapid. And we were back paddling to avoid the family as they crossed the river. And to our knowledge, we had successfully avoided them, and we went downstream and crossed through the rapid. And then as we kind of made it through the rapid and made it maybe a quarter mile past the rapid, we all of a sudden started to hear this loud tweeting noise. And we're like, oh shoot, what's happening? And we kind of eddy out to the side of the river, and all of a sudden this small gosling just beelines it for our raft. And so Garrett, my partner, stuck her hand in the water, and this gosling just went right into her hand. And what they say is always that a bird will imprint on you. And so we tried to initially put the gosling back in the reeds where there are other geese in there, and this gosling would constantly just come straight back to the boat. And so we all had this moment of panic of what are we going to do to keep this gosling safe. And now we felt it was our responsibility, and we just had no idea of how to handle or mitigate this situation. So we took this gosling with us, and we had this internal debate. We had this group debate about what we're going to do. And so with some knowledge of geese and goslings, we thought that, well, maybe we can find another group of young goslings and a mother goose and release that gosling to the mother. Well, we tried to set that gosling down in the reeds and try quickly paddle away, and nope, the gosling would come straight back to us. And so we just struggled internally with this dread that we knew this gosling was going to die, and now it was our watch to take care of this gosling. And so we constructed out of an ammo can a little nest for the gosling and paddled on to our next campsite. And you can see here, this young gosling was very small. It had just hatched. Garrett's father is a veterinarian, and he recognized that this gosling probably had been born that same day or the day before. So very, very young. And when we made it to our campsite, it was kind of Garrett's responsibility in as the now newfound imprinted mother, this gosling would not leave her side. And this was our tent at night, and you can see the pain on Garrett's face as a new mother. She had not slept the entire night caring for this gosling. It was constantly quacking, and it just would sleep on Garrett's chest underneath the down of her sleeping bag. And as new parents, it was quite difficult. We had a lot to concern. One of the biggest concerns for us was how do we get this gosling fed? So we would make a small slurry of baby arugula for the gosling, and hand feed this gosling. And at the early stages of this newfound child of ours, we had to hand feed it, and there was this gosling was just so attached to us, or mostly attached to Garrett. We had no ability to do anything. So Garrett's main responsibility was taking care of this gosling. And as we kind of navigated the next day, because now we're on day 4 of 5-day trip, this gosling started to get a little bit more confident, a little bit more bold, and started to explore the terrain. And it was really interesting as we, finished out those final days. This gosling was, becoming more bold and exploring the world. And so now we were worried about predators taking this gosling. So there's a huge burden on us to make sure that now, because we've taken this responsibility to take care of this gosling and get it to a wildlife rescue center, we didn't want it to be killed by a predator or die on our watch. So it was a huge responsibility for us, and we still were concerned about whether this was legal. There was all these self-doubt whether this is part of nature, and we should just let the gosling be on its own and let nature take its course. But that really did not sit well on our stomachs and our hearts. We just could not let that happen. And I blocked Garrett's face out just as a, it's not that we thought that we were doing something illegal, but more or less that we just didn't know what the correct protocol was. We had no way to have reception, so we had no idea what we were doing was right, or what we should do in this situation. We were just kind of going with our heart. And so this is our final campsite at River Mile 59.3, and you can see that I mentioned it's on this gravel bar, very barren. And this is our final dinner. And we had a steak dinner, and we named the Gosling Tweedle, and little Tweedle joined us for our fine dinner. As you can see, would not leave Garrett's side, and it's just kind of nesting on Garrett's shoulder there. The story does end in a great note. So as we approached the takeout, we knew that we were going to have to face a significant journey to get back and get this Gosling safe. And just so you know, is the temperatures were fairly cool throughout the entire trip, but towards the end of the trip, the temperature started rising into the 90s. So making sure that this Gosling was cool and safe, we created in the ammo can a little wading pool for this Gosling to paddle around in and stay cold. And then we knew that once we got to the takeout, Garrett and her mother were actually going to Bend, and myself and her father were actually headed north with all the gear back to Seattle. And so we were going to part ways. And so Garrett had to part ways with her little Gosling Tweedle. And so it was a very sad and somber, goodbye for both of us. But we had to get to service as fast as we can. And we are now in this car with a young Gosling, and we had no idea, no service still. Not until we got to the Columbia River Gorge would we actually know where we could take this bird. And again, another challenge was it was on a Sunday, so we didn't even know if there was going to be a wildlife center open. But we got in the car, we had the AC cranked, I had the little ammo can on my lap. And this poor Gosling was just kind of freaking out because it was just had no idea now what was going on. The main events for the last couple of days were just on the river time, and it could explore as it wanted. But now we were kind of in the car and had a kind of crunch time to get this bird to a safe space where someone else could take care of it. And so we drove, you can see here where our takeout was. So it's marked there in the lower right-hand corner in Cottonwood Canyon, and drive the 206 all the way up to Wasco, and you still don't have service. And then you finally get up to Biggs Junction, where I finally could get service. And once I got service, I started doing as much research as I could. I called friends that are in the Hood River area and White Salmon to ask them, what kind of wildlife clinics, where can I take this bird? And so, as pure luck, I was found the Rowena Wildlife Clinic, which takes care of injured animals and animals that have been separated from their parents. And so I called them, and there was no answer. And so EB, Garrett's father, and myself were like, well, we have no option. The only chance we're going to have is to try to go to that clinic and get it to safety. The only other option then, if that didn't work, we were going to have to drive north to Seattle with this Gosling and find some other wildlife clinic. But we knew the best chance was to keep it in its region, and with the hopes that it could grow old and become an adult and be released back into the area that it's familiar with. So we drove to the wildlife clinic, and it's this beautiful little house up on the hill across the river from White Salmon, right by Moena, if you're familiar with that, or by the Dalles. Right up above on the cliffside there of the gorge. And we drove up to this house, and we knocked on the door, and there was no answer. And so we just went in, and there was the veterinary surgeon that is an unpaid veterinarian surgeon that has this clinic for injured animals. who takes in about 250 animals per year, mostly animals that have been either in wildfires or may have been unintentionally struck by a car, or other instances where an animal is stranded or hurt. And we were able to talk with the veterinarian, and the veterinarian's like, this happens all the time during the seasons when these goslings hatch. And she's like, we have a beautiful pond in the back, and we have a place where we can raise this gosling, and it was honestly the best situation that we could have ever hoped for. This gosling is, there were other goslings on site. There was actually a mother goose that could act as a surrogate parent. And we just felt so thankful that there was this, fantastic wildlife clinic that does cater to wild animals like Tweedle. And, honestly, it was a harrowing journey at the end there, but we were so glad to be able to know that this bird was going to be cared for, and with the end of the story being back released into the wild. So that's really my story of an unexpected paddler on the John Day River. And I would love to hear if anyone else has any advice or comments on what we did, or how we handled the situation. I had done a ton of research, and I felt bad to maybe take a wild animal out of its natural habitat. So I would love to hear anyone's feedback, or if you have any questions about the John Day River, I'm more than happy to share that as well.
Hi, Alex. This is Dave. Yeah, thank you for the amusing and interesting tale there of Tweedle. I don't have any comments. Well, I do have a comment. It makes me wonder what I would have done in such a situation. I think I feel fortunate now that I've never been in that situation, because it certainly is a quandary. I can just picture myself in any group that I was with debating about what to do. I think you certainly went to great lengths to ensure that this little gosling was able to continue its journey, its life journey, its unexpected life journey. But very entertaining. I found myself chuckling quite often as you told the story. So thanks.
Yeah, it was just such an interesting experience. And from the research, just so everyone knows, from the research, what I have done is that typically there's a fine line between whether it's a hatchling or a fledgling. And there's this period of time where a bird becomes more independent. And from what we had happened across is that this bird had probably been hatched within the last 24 hours. It was just probably taking its first swim across the river and didn't have the power to make it through the rapid to be with its family. And every time that we tried to reunite this bird, because typically you can actually take a gosling and another adult goose will just, because they don't recognize their goslings necessarily based on smell or sight, this gosling can be incorporated in another group and cared for. But this gosling was just, I guess, imprinted on our group at that point. And so to no avail were we able to reunite this bird with its family in the space that we were at. So I would say is, if you are a paddler going down a river, I hope that you don't have to come across a situation like this. But it does happen frequently. And so if you are paddling from that May to June period of time, you may encounter a situation where you do come across these new hatchlings, and just be aware. I would say for the most part, it wouldn't be a situation that we had, but it obviously didn't go our way this time. And it does happen more frequently than not. There's another story from the same clinic that a group of Girl Scouts were on the same river, and they searched for hours to find the parent of this gosling, and they were not able to locate it and brought it to the clinic. And
did you actually try to bring the gosling back up to its flock? You did.
Yeah, so we actually stayed in contact. We donated,
No, I mean, when it first imprinted on you, did you try to walk back upstream and?
so we were far enough downstream at
Yeah.
that point before we even noticed that the gosling was following our boats, that we like had no ability to actually hike back upstream to make it back to the parent. Yeah, so I mean that would have been the ideal situation,
Yeah.
but
Do you
I
have,
don't know.
do you have like recurring nightmares now where you're going down the river and all of a sudden you hear this quacking sound?
Yeah, well, so yeah, anytime
screaming.
we see goslings, Garrett and myself will kind of freeze and not know what to do. If anything, any indicator is we haven't been back to the John Day River yet, and there's probably a lot of other situations that we haven't been back. Whether it's flow, but yeah, we're definitely nervous for the next time that we go on the John Day River to see if we have the same situation, but. I don't know. We haven't actually talked about contingency plans if this happens again. So now it just kind of lives as a great paddling story.
Sounds like it could be a Disney movie or something.
Yeah.
Maybe you should
Well,
sell the rights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone has great paddling stories. And this is one of those ones where, it wasn't something that, we were injured or had any evacuation, but it was just like a totally unique situation. So
Yeah, I like the way it was presented. I mean, when you said then an unfortunate event happened, we were all, at least I was waiting for something really traumatic and some injury or somebody got sick, or you came across another group that had been injured or sick or something. So
well, we have
well presented.
Well, thank you. I mean, there's some other stories that we have from the lower salmon where we've seen a jet boat crash up on the rocks and had a medic evac from that. And yeah, I mean, there's countless stories, but this one is kind of more of a lighthearted story. And I also wanted to share with everyone too, the John Day River. I don't know how many folks here are familiar with the John Day River, but I know as a paddler myself, this was before I got into canoeing, but we met a bunch of canoeists on this river, and it's a fantastic river to paddle. Especially in June and July, where the flow gets a little bit lower. You're not having to fight for campsites, and it's again, the geology is fantastic, and the canyon rivals any other canyon that you would go through, and it's very close to Seattle as well for a multi-day trip. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you all for joining us tonight. I would be more than happy to regale you in another tale at another time. So I know that we do have more paddle tales in the upcoming months. And if you want to share this story out, we'll also have this posted on our YouTube channel, and we'll post it on our Facebook as well. So I hope everyone has a great night. And I hope to see you on the water soon.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.